Welcome to Bass University Live. Good to be back, Rich. It's been, it's been 3 weeks. Been on the road for 2 full weeks.
Yep, it's been a busy stretch for Bass University. A lot of fishing happening.
Yep.
So it's good to be back with our Bass U family. Get on the airwaves here, talk to everybody, and have a guest on, Pete, that I actually go way back with, like back to the origin of Chatterbait Riz back in those days, the earliest days of 2020. I got to spend a day in the boat with Lucas when I was in Alabama getting ready for a Gadsden Bass U seminar. And Lucas and I spent a day together on Jordan Lake, and we had a great day of fishing, caught a bunch of big spotted bass on chatterbaits. So it was it's cool to see things come full circle. That's back when he was still in Auburn in school as a college angler. It's cool to see somebody that we connected with so far back in the day now to be an Opens Division I Angler of the Year. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's an amazing accomplishment. Unfortunately, just the beginning, right? You got to,
Yep.
You got over the first hurdle. Now you got another big hurdle to go through. For those of you that don't know, we're all going to learn more about the details, but it's now a 3-tournament race with the top 50 from each division,
right?
For spots in the elite. So that's what's coming. But running through the gauntlet and dominating the field is an amazing accomplishment. So we're looking forward to talking with Lucas. We've had a busy week, Rich. We battled the Chesapeake. Of course, Lucas was with us on the Chesapeake. Well, interesting to hear his reaction and experience there. We had the Bassmaster Open. We were down there, and it was a crazy tournament. We'll probably dive into it when we, a little bit later with some more details. But man, fishing in crowds, it was really the heaviest crowds that I've ever competed in. I mean, there's 50 boats, all of us be casting within each other's motor, and very, very unique experience that way. But the Chesapeake showed out. You got to give props to the body of water. For the first time, we really showed out and had great weights. The grass flats played. We've been there so many times when, oh my God, catching a limit was a challenge, in September and in April. So the grass was a big factor, and that was a great thing. And then last week, a big shout out to my son Jake Gluzek and Max Hugan, who qualified for the Nationals down at Clarks Hill, which we fished last week. And they were in the hunt, Rich. Oh my God, we were within a pound and a half of the lead after day one, and so exciting, so many amazing fish catches. And unfortunately, day two was we kind of had an average bag, and we fell out of contention for winning that tournament. But the kids had a great experience. They learned a lot, and had to make some tough decisions, and we'll dive into that. I'm anxious to talk with Lucas about it. He did well at Clarks Hill this year in the winter, basically, and what his experience is there in the summertime. Kind of dive in, to that a little bit. See if he can fix us. What we may have done wrong down there.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I'm gonna ask him how to fix my performance in my backyard. Lucas came off of a 3rd place finish right here on the home field, so
wow,
I'm really interested to get inside the mind of how to handle the bigger fields like that, because the way that I described, when I've described to people like that are asking how to go in the Open, like looking back, what would you have done different, that type of thing. And I said the most amazing thing was that it seemed that in the first couple hours of the first couple days of practice, all of the best stuff like that we have been fishing for the last few years, stuff like that, it all got found one way or another. But regardless of how it got found, the fish still have to be caught in those scenarios, and a lot of guys were really successful in doing so. I'm excited to dive in a little bit with Lucas on how he managed it. Did he stay in the crowd? Did he get out of the crowd? Did he have stuff, just off the beaten path? It'll be really interesting to hear.
It is, and it was such a big field. It's like it's always the thing that I try to tell people about that is, man, a lot of times you're trying to make it on your backup stuff, because your primary stuff gets wiped out. Like if your boat, whatever, 50, you're not first one to where you want to be. You're sharing the water with, in my case, 40 other boats. You're, so you're trying to survive and thrive on backup areas and secondary patterns a lot of times on these really big fields. And that's a challenge, but hey, we got consolation prizes, you and I. So you did catch the biggest fish of the tournament, Riz. So shout out for that, man. That was an amazing catch. It was 6. What was that?
It was 6.5. It was a 6 pounds 5 ounces.
Nice.
Yep. And it's a great fish. Not the accolade that wanted to walk away from the week. But I didn't handle business and putting enough other fish around that one. If I had that tournament to do over, now that I've kind of unpacked it, I've talked about it with, a lot of people and just kind of re-strategize things. I mean, I would have rode off the crowds and I would have spent a lot more time actually fishing in the C and D type of areas, because oftentimes they do have more to offer than you may think, just because you roll through there and practice and only catch a couple fish. There may be a little bit more to it if you spend more time in there. The big crowds challenged the way that I fish on the Upper Bay. And looking back at that is another reason why I feel like I would have been better if I just fished the way I fished in my C and D areas, because when I started to do that, I started to really start putting things together. The bites started to click. And, when I can't ride the tide or fish into the tide and move with the water, so to speak, out on the bay, like move through areas according to how I think the water's moving and how it should be, I seem to struggle. And that got me real bad on the first day of practice. I went to my best stuff. I had 30 boats on each side of me, had no room to feel. I felt like I was in a box, like I had no room to operate. And next thing you know, it's 1:00 and I got one fish in the live well, and you better figure something out. So.
Yeah, no kidding. It changes everything. I fished with my power poles down in a crowd for almost an hour and a half at one point, and I would never fish that way without the massive crowds. They force you to adjust and react and fish in ways that you wouldn't expect. I felt fortunate to slip in for a check in that tournament, and had a better comeback on day 2. Had to scramble. I weighed in a smallmouth every day in that tournament, and it helped me get up the leaderboard a little bit. But we'll dive in some details there. But I also I'm going to have a little show and tell preview.
Okay.
Some of you guys might remember this from our very last show. This is a Truth South double buzz. I don't have the Horty Toad on there, but that's the trailer. That was a big factor in the national championship, as well as this bait. Who can tell me what this bait is? Obviously, it's a bluegill glide, but it's a good one. Caught the biggest fish in Jake's Derby. Some amazing catches. We'll dive into that.
Yeah.
Big shout out, Humminbird, Lake Master. Oh my gosh, without them, how would we have survived Clark Hill? It was just a brand new body of water, massive, trying to learn our way around that. Such a tremendous tool for us. As well as Thump Gel, the difficult bite in the hot weather. We got a lot of drop shot fish in that tournament. So big thanks to those guys. So, but without any further ado, let's bring on our guest. We're glad to have him with us. He's riding a wave, man. Just what an incredible accomplishment. AOY, really, in Division One for the Opens. Lucas Lindsay, welcome to the show.
What is going on, guys?
It's good to have you with us, man. It's what a tremendous. Well, we're feeling a little down because you kicked our butts on our home body of water.
I had a good showing for sure.
that was great. You had take me through. You had a third place at Clark's Hill. You had a third place on the Bay.
Second place on the Bay.
Second on the Bay. My apologies.
Sorry, Lucas. That's me. That's my fault. Sorry, man. But hey,
it's all right. It's all good.
Amazing. Second place on the Bay.
You were at Tombigbee in April. Where were you? Would you finish there?
Ended up 28th there.
Solid finish. And just last week you were at the St. Lawrence. I know you didn't win it. Shout out to Corey who won that event. Another one up there. How'd you finish there?
I was looking. I thought it was 14th, but I stand corrected. It is 13th. It's a 13th with 45-13.
Good night. Man, what an amazing year. You just everything you're touching seems to turn to gold right now. That's got to feel really good.
It definitely does. I had a very special year. God had his hand on me all year and really blessed me to go do what I love and have fun and really catch them, So it's a big part.
You come from Auburn University, and you're now done with the college program. Are you doing this full time now? Is that what you're doing?
So I'm not. I'm working for a small company in Auburn. We do parking lot maintenance. So I do a lot of traveling outside of fishing for the business I work for, and he's gracious enough to let me have time off to fish and to do what I love, and that's kind of actually how I met him. I mentored his son a little bit in high school fishing after I got out of college. I couldn't find the exact date, but it was a while ago. And he asked me when I was graduating college, what are you doing when you graduate college? I was like, dude, I have no clue. I obviously love to bass fish when I get out, but just at the time it wasn't in the cards. And I got a big boy job and started making a little money. And like I said, he was gracious enough to let me off and fish and follow my dreams. So that's also a blessing.
Well, that is a blessing, and you're making the most of it. Certainly this year, with some tremendous finishes. Let's dive into there. I want to look down the road. We'll do that later because we got we got over the first hurdle. We got another hurdle to get over, but man, this was amazing. You went to Clark's Hill. Now I'm imagining being from Auburn and fishing in the college series. You fished Clark's Hill a few times. But you're saying
never been. I've only been to Lanier once. Never been to Clark's Hill, so that was a new one.
Wow! And I just got back from there for the high school tournament that was there this past week, and the talk was that the 20-pound bags were coming in down at Clark's Hill pretty regular. We didn't see fish of that caliber when we were there in the middle of the summer, but you guys were there in the heart of the winter.
It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. Water temp was in the 40s. Really wasn't expecting much. Went in pre-practice in December with Chase. No, did I go with Chase or did I go with? I think I went with Tyler Malone. It's a buddy I travel with. I fished the Alabama Bass Trail with back at home. So we went and traveled and pre-practiced up there and kind of got an idea. I'd never liked to go to a new lake for just the like official practice in Durb. So we went and pre-practiced in December, and the only thing I took away from that place in December was it was big, it was clear, and it was rough. That's the only, because I got there and wind was blowing probably 20 mile an hour every day. And I stuffed a wave and absolutely fried my 86-16. So that happened. I think that happened maybe I think it was the first day. So we stayed for 3 days and pre-practiced. It's about 4 hours from my house. But I stuffed a wave the first day, and it was really rough, and it absolutely fried my 86-16. So I went through the rest of practice up there with no live scope. So I really didn't get to learn a whole lot besides getting behind the graph, getting behind the Lawrences, and scanning and getting in front of my Mercury and just putting some hours on the rig and really finding brush piles, rock outcroppings, trash piles, and really kind of diversifying myself. I looked on points and humps, and obviously in the main lake, and then in backs of creeks and in front of docks. So as many areas as I could get with that kind of cover is what I kind of focused on.
It's shocking as painfully cold as it was for you. It was 100 degrees every day for us without a stitch of wind. So we couldn't even breathe. We had to get in the water because it was so extreme. The heat to keep my boys under, able to compete. I mean, it was rough that way.
Yeah.
You guys had it the other way.
Oh my goodness.
Extreme cold, right?
Right. Yeah, it was in the 20s, I think, in official practice. We actually had snow, and that's one of the things. I took a couple notes on each event that I had, and the 3 bullet points I had for this event was snow, frozen boats, and frozen equipment. I mean, it was cold. So we had I had a bottle of Pam spray in the boat, or I'll spray my eyelets down every couple of casts during the tournament. I know y'all saw, I don't think it was Blaine Bunny. Might have been Dylan Fogarty. He actually casted off his leader, or broke off his leader several times. I think that might have been from like the ice and the eyelets and stuff. Man, right. It's on your equipment. I ripped carpet up on my new boat, and it was a disaster. I know guys had their live wells frozen. Like, it was an absolute disaster. Like, Hank's like, got to get your live wells open. We got to do boat check. It's just, you're sitting over there snatching on your live well lids and grabbing screwdrivers and sitting there pulling on it with all you got, and it breaks loose. You about fall in the water. So it was a time, honestly.
Yeah, for people that might not know, or probably most people will never fish in those conditions. But when you got to open up your live wells that were wet previously, the carpet sticks to itself, and you rip the carpet up anytime you got to open up a compartment. I've been out in the mornings, like at the rental house with like hot water, like containers and coffee pots, pouring it over the seams of rod lockers to try to get them open,
And believe it or not, that stuff, I don't know if it helped or not, because we did that, and I think it was so cold that it just refroze everything. Like, you pour like we would pour boiling water on our carpet. Like, I'd be like, it's going to tighten up the carpet, and it's just going to rip. So we pour it on there, and within a couple of minutes, it seemed like it would already froze back. Like it was cold, very cold. It's crazy.
You crushed it, man. You unlocked the puzzle. What was your patterns in that extreme condition?
Well, in practice, I was really looking at brush pile fishing. So I was looking at that traditional jerk bait, obviously a minnow, a jig head minnow, and a drop shot. And in the tournament, I just, for whatever reason, I stuck with a minnow in my hand, and I really caught them. I was throwing a 3.75 inch, or I think it's 3.75. It's whatever the Z-Man minnow is, the smaller one, in an array of colors. I don't really think it mattered. Also an electric shad and shiner. But yeah, I stuck with a minnow in my hand a lot. And I think the first day I had 16 pounds the first day, which I thought was going to be fine, but I showed up and I was in 39th place with 16 pounds the first day. And I was like, holy crap. I left some out there. I thought I caught them good enough, but I went back out day 2. I went to an area I thought there were some bigger ones in, and ended up catching a couple of them. I think what it comes down to is just found a special area in practice. You know, we traveled. I had another guy that traveled with us that actually dropped out and didn't fish, but we all put in at the same area, and we within probably the first 15 minutes or so, we had all caught one over 4 pounds, and it was like, holy crap, you know, like this is something special. Let's not beat up on it. Let's get away from this area. I don't really think we knew exactly what we had found, but everybody had caught a very solid fish with like one you want to weigh in. And I just kind of expanded on that day 2 of the tournament, you know.
What kind of area was it? Were you brush piles? Were you on points?
Yeah.
Were you back in pockets?
Yeah. So it was a mix of in between drains and brush piles on the ends of points and stuff. So we were in one of the big creeks on the Georgia side would be of Clark's Hill, and we stayed. It was relatively clear water, so you had a lot of the dirtier water pouring in from the main creek, and it was just an arm that branched off from the main creek. And for whatever reason, there was a lot of bait in there, and there was a lot of big bass.
Nice. Well, you did a terrific job. You crushed them in the cold weather. Made the final round. Well, heck, man, you had a tremendous finish. Did you come close to winning that one? I mean, you were sniffing it at third place.
I can't remember how far I was off without looking, but I think I lost. I think I lost 2 out of the pile because I had big bass that tournament too. I think it was a 7.5. But I had that fish, and I lost 2 out of the same brush pile that were probably right in that same 7-pound class range. It sucks, but you know it happens to everybody. Everybody's got that story during a tournament. But I had pretty much all 4-pounders beside that. I think I had a 380 or a 390 that I could have called, but other than that, they were all 4-pounders. So it was an incredible tournament, man. And I can't really take away from it. You know, I mean, like I said, I lost 2. I had the leader pull on one. It was really weird. You know, I caught that 7-pounder, and then I casted right back in there with the same leader and everything, and it was fine. You know, I checked the leader before I threw back in there, and she came through the brush pile just like the one before did and loaded up on it, and I pulled into her. She head shook twice and come back, and it was just the leader. And, you know, the braid was just kind of had a little bit of memory from that knot, and I was like, man, that is incredible. You know, I just can't. Sometimes it's just not meant to be, and I guess that was one of them. But that hurt a lot, and then I had one pull off. I tied on a brand new leader and threw right back in there, and another one come up and pulled into her, and she just pulled off. I watched her come through the pile and smash it, and
wow.
You know, I guess I got lucky enough to get one, so that was good enough for me, I guess.
Well, yeah, it was a great finish, great start to the season. Place you'd never been before.
Right.
Really, really incredible. The next one, nobody had been to before, which was the Tombigbee. Was that the case for you? Had you ever seen that water before?
I've never been there. You know, I fished a lot of the Alabama River, which is a couple pools up, like Montgomery area. But I had never been down there to the 10 Tom. You know, that place it's interesting, and we're going to see it again on the Elite Series this year or this coming year. Yeah, it's a different animal for sure. And if everybody's asking, you know, what do you think about the Elite Series schedule? And I don't know if y'all remember the weather we got this spring, but if it's anything this coming year like it was this past year, we're going to have a lot of seasonal flooding in the south, and that made that place really, really rough. You know, it made it really high and really dirty and really dangerous. Lots of floating stuff. The tugs coming up the river, barges, whatever you want to call them, and they're stirring up all the trees and stuff that have kind of settled and waterlogged, and it just makes it an interesting fishery. Dropping water, rising water. I mean, you got to deal with sharing water. But I guess the positive is there's plenty of fish in there. There are tons of bass in the 10 Tom. And it was fun to break it down this year.
That's probably what your lowest finish this year?
Yes, sir.
You made a check in that tournament, but
I did.
How'd you wind up catching them there?
So I wanted to catch them frogging like reeds and stuff just because it was postponed. Figured there would be some fry garters around. So I wanted to wind a bait around, honestly. I wanted to power fish, you know, buzz bait, frog. but I ended up catching them flipping. You know, I had a buddy from Auburn hop in this one. His name's Will Gully. He hopped in and fished it, and I saw him in an area, and I was like, man, are they just like nipping your stuff? Like you'd flip into like a reed clump or whatever, and blast it, dude. I'm talking just smoke it, and they would never have a hook. And you just at some point you're like, okay, that's not all bluegill. You know, sometimes you'd set the hook on them and they'd pull off. You'd never see them. Like, is this big rock bass or warmouth, or is this grinnell, which is like a bowfin? Same thing.
Yeah.
And at some point I was like, dude, these have got to be bass. So we started playing around with what we were flipping. I was flipping a D-bomb, something that's got a little bit of action, and ended up switching to a rage bug, and couldn't get him to hold on to a rage bug either. And finally started flipping like a beaver, like a legit beaver, something that does not have any action. It falls straight and does all that. And one of us ended up catching, I think by luck, obviously, one of the fish that started biting it. You know, not all of them were bass, but I think a grand majority of them were. But it was like this, I think I call him a goggle eye, but he had lots of red on his tail. And I was like, that makes sense. So we started just flipping that green pumpkin beaver bait, like a reaction innovation, something that's straight, doesn't have any action. It settles down, it falls fast, and started catching them. So I ended up catching them, every one of them flipping, you know, 3/8 and ½ ounce weight. And I just stuck a flipping stick in my hand, and that was a place that you could go straight braid. And I wasn't afraid to go straight braid just because of the watercolor. Like I said, flipping in reeds and in the duckweed and stuff that had washed up, and really caught them. I lost a couple that would have helped. I definitely would have fished day 3. I think I only missed day 3 by like 2.5, 3 pounds. I lost one between 5 and 6 twice. Second time I almost got my hands on her. First time she had swam out the side of the mat and pulled half the mat with her, and I flipped back in there again, and she ate it again probably 45 minutes later, and just didn't play my cards right, and she got up under the boat, and that was the last time I saw her, you know. So sometimes that happens, and you got to take the good with the bad, you know.
Heck yeah. I mean, it happens. I mean, a lot of people think winning, like you won AOY. A lot of people think that everything has to go perfect, but my experience is, man, it's not perfect. It's ugly a lot of times. But when it's going to happen, it happens. And you just got to take the good with the bad. And that was great. You know, you went in this tournament, non-forward facing event, right? No, everybody was fishing shallow. So
Tombigbee, I actually took my Garmin off the front of my boat. Like I did not, it was gone. Like I didn't take it off the front of my boat. Or I did take it off the front of my boat. It was in the truck.
That was pretty cool, Bass, I think, or, you know, maybe they got lucky doing it, but, you know, mixing it up, challenging guys in different types of environments. And, so that was pretty cool, you know, putting an event like this on the schedule. But you took the challenge, you thrived here as well. So you're 2 for 2. Were you in the lead in the points at this point?
I don't think so. I think I got the lead at Chesapeake. I don't think I was in the lead. I think it was in like 4th or 5th, maybe after Tombigbee, because Chase Clark did really well. And if y'all follow anything like that, you know, I fished in college with Chase, so it's cool getting back around these guys. You know, Connor Jacob, Chase Clark, Sam Hangy, all those names those are guys I fished with in college, you know, and bumped shoulders with in college and hung out around. So it's cool getting back out here with these guys and catching bass.
Yeah, that is very cool. It's the next generation.
Yeah.
So now, Rich, we got our heart broke.
Mm-hmm.
We were very excited. We're always excited. You know, the hardest part for us was the upper Chesapeake we were talking about. We had to stay off the water for 30 days. You know, that was challenging for us, because the bay was on fire, and it's the peak time of year. And for 30 days, we get to watch these tournament results coming in from guys on the weekend, and they're catching 25, 27 pound bags for winning stringers. But we didn't get to fish during that period. You didn't either. Obviously, it's off limits. But man, you came to our home body of water and you really put the beat down on us. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. It was fun. That place is definitely healthy. That's the first, like I said, that's the only place I'd ever been to on this Elite Series schedule. This open schedule was St. Lawrence. So I came into Clarks Hill with no real knowledge. I came into the Tennessee Tombigbee with no real knowledge, and Chesapeake was more of the same. I came in with no real knowledge. I went up and pre-practiced in June, and that's when the water coming out of the Susquehanna was very dirty. It was super dirty, and that was something that I read on public forums and stuff. Is if it rains a lot, and which is good, it can be both a blessing and a curse. That water coming out of Susquehanna is going to drift over that flat. Sometimes it cleans it, sometimes it don't. So you could be dealing with a lot of dirty water. And on the other end, if it doesn't rain a lot, that salt water push up the bay and obviously make it a lot tougher.
Yeah. Well, and you were there at that time, so you really didn't get to see the grass flats at its best with the muddy water, blasting it. But you learned enough to develop a practice strategy. What was your official practice like?
Official practice, different. Like I started out in some of the zones that I pre-practiced in, and I quickly found out that a lot of the, I guess, milfoil that was around, because that place has got four or five different types of grass. You got milfoil, eelgrass, peppergrass, and hydrilla. So you got at least 4, if not 5. Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, but you got plenty to deal with out there. And in pre-practice, we kind of caught them around some of the milfoil when it turned to eelgrass. So you'd have small eelgrass patches. You'd have an eelgrass patch the size like a dining room table. But in official practice, those size of dining room table eelgrass flats turned into football fields of eelgrass flats in spots. So it really, I feel like they got a lot bigger. The zones definitely changed. I caught them on that. If you're looking at the Susquehanna flat and up into the Susquehanna River, northeast is kind of up here on your right. I caught them kind of on that bottom zone in pre-practice, and then during the tournament, that left side, I think everybody saw that left side had plenty of boats on it between the flat and Battery Island. But that's kind of the same zone I was in. I was just a little bit further out than everybody, and a little bit of the deeper grass. I think that was the big key for me is the little bit deeper grass. I kind of went expecting that I was going to be throwing a chatterbait like everybody else in that 3/8 ounce range and ripping it out of the grass that was 4 foot down on the surface or 3 foot down. And that just did not end up being the story. We found a zone the first day of practice, and the water was 10 to 11 foot deep, and the grass came up to, I don't know, a foot or two off the bottom. So 9 to 10 foot grass, and that was super deep. But we caught that first day of practice was unbelievable. I think me and everybody else in the house had over 20. Like, it was like smashed them. And I turned around, I was like, "Are you catching them like this too?" And he's like, "Yeah." One of my buddies actually was across the flat from me just for a little ways, probably 200 yards or so. And he had like the same bag. So we're just looking like, man, it's a good zone. I think we found something. We just kind of tried to expand on that. I ended up graphing around those areas that I caught them and ended up finding a bunch of holes. And I think that definitely played into my strategy for the tournament, was to stick around those holes, because obviously that's ambush points. Those bass will sit there around that and eat those perch and eat whatever other bait fish is in the upper Chesapeake. So
that was definitely a key that for the fish that I caught, and a lot of us was finding those holes. Were you in any of the community groups, or were you fishing by yourself?
I was relatively by myself. I didn't have to fight with anybody. I kind of started out by Dylan, and I would say his last name, but I know I'm going to butcher it, and I'm not going to do that to my guy. So I started out beside Dylan almost every morning, and I think at the end of the first day, we went blow for a little while catching bass, and his were just bigger than mine. So I think obviously was on the winning area right there, but it was his time. He freaking caught them, And I'm extremely happy with what happened. You know, it's cool that we can all share water like that. I don't know what y'all's experience was, but the few boats that I had to share water with, it was really good because we worked around each other. We talked, and they're like, man, are you catching them? Are they short striking? Or have you caught a catfish? And it was a really good tournament, and everybody was really willing to work together and let people fish the water that they wanted to fish. So
that, I gotta say, that was true. I went, I spent time, especially on day 2, in a group of probably, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 boats at times. And it was surprising how we were able to not get in too big a conflict,
Right.
because it was tough because you knew where the holes were, you knew where the current flows were, and you just had to kind of share them and wait for guys to move around and fish, give guys enough casting radius where each of us could get access to the fish. But
sure.
yeah, good for you for finding man, you found the winning area, and you guys did amazing. That was a tremendous finish on a great body of water. Did you look around? Did you? I was that question. It sounded you fished the flats with the rest of us. Did you go and explore the rivers down south or look at any of the other stuff?
So in pre-practice, I went into the Bohemian River, and the flats. I mean, you said the flats were fishing really good in pre-practice, or would have been, and I did not see that. I mean, we had 13 to 15, 16 pounds every day on the flats in practice. We just did not catch that big of bass. It wasn't anything like official practice, but went to go exploring the Bohemian River, and man, none of the maps really do these places justice. The Chesapeake is a enormous animal. The place is so big. So we got back in the Bohemian and caught some good bass. I had a dock or 2 docks that I could catch 14 pounds off of, and really put a good limit on the boat if I needed to. I actually didn't have to go visit that stuff, and thank goodness, But like I said, I went and explored the Bohemian. It was beautiful, man. It was lots of backwaters, lots of good hardwood trees that had done laid over in the water, and obviously you got the flow coming out, and then you got the tide pulling it out most of the time. So you have plenty of current flow back there. I guess the only thing you really have to deal with is the snakeheads, and finding and navigating your way around that was definitely an important part, because the last thing you want to do is be dealing with a snakehead for 10, 12 minutes, trying to get him unhooked, trying not to get bit, dealing with fish. But it was it's definitely a lot of fun. Like I said, the Bohemian was good. I caught bass back there. And if you could put together a cranking bite on those trees back there, or a flipping bite, that was just another backup plan. Like y'all talked about A, B, C, and D, like my A was the flat in pre-practice, and I felt like I'd catch 15 pounds. My B was the Bohemian. I felt like I'd catch anywhere from 13 to 16, but I mean, it definitely was on that lower range, that 13, 14 pound range. And thank goodness it ended up getting better. And that was the talk between all of us Opens guys, is it's just going to get better. Several of the guys at pre-practice, and I looked at him, I was like, dude, like one of the guys was from up there. I looked at him, he's pre-practicing. He's like, I'm not really catching. I was like, well, I'm not either, but I hope it gets better. He looked at me and was like, yeah, it's going to get better. Just buckle down and stay there. So having faith, I guess, was all a part of it. Fishing that flat and really staying anchored down. Those fish stay in zones up there. And I caught every fish. Like if I went on my graph, I'd marked each bass that I caught in practice on a different color, and I labeled it waypoint wise. And every time I would get around that zone, I would drop my power poles down, and I would kind of pick apart that zone. I'd have a place where I caught a 5.1 and a 4.2 and those caliber fish. And in practice, I would stay away from those areas, obviously, and try to expand. But during the tournament, like I said, I would drop the poles and really pick that area apart, make 10 or 15 casts in that general vicinity within 20, 30 feet of that waypoint. And 9 times out of 10, I would catch another one. I had 19 13 the first day, and I should have had 19-14 the second day. I ended up having a dead fish penalty, which is obviously 8 ounces on the Chesapeake. It's not a nice dead fish penalty. But I should have had another 19, 14. And it would have made me obviously a little bit closer to Dylan. But the real difference maker was day 3. I lost them. I lost probably 9 or 10 fish between 7:30 in the morning and 8:30, and it hurt. Like, I watched one 6 pounds or better jump off, and I tailed a little over 5, and lost 2 coming to the boat that were the other 4 pounders, and it hurts when you do that. But the day before and the day before that, I was blessed enough to get those fish to the boat. I think I boat flipped everything the first day, which was kind of crazy, but it flowed. Like when you get in that flow and you get in that rhythm and you got that fish coming to you, don't mess around with him at the boat. Go ahead and flip him. But yeah, it was a good 3 days of bass fishing on the upper Chesapeake. But those zones, I think, were very important, really picking apart those zones and recognizing that, hey, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the tide. In practice, I'm saying, if it's the tide or if it's the grass or if it's the water clarity. And that's a big thing that I told a lot of people is, like, y'all talked about how many boats there were around you and can you fish around that many boats and stuff like that? And the answer is yes. I grew up fishing Alabama Bass Nation with Daryl High, and obviously Hank was the MC for the Opens ones. We always had 200 boats. This would have been on a place like Lake Martin. It's kind of a highland reservoir, Lake Eufaula, stuff like that. So I always grew up fishing around a ton of boats, always from the very start. And then I went to obviously college and fished all the college series stuff, and you always had over 200 boats in the college derbs. And then I fished the Alabama Bass Trail, and the cap on those is 225. So I've always grown up fishing around a lot of boats, and the key is just keeping your head straight, man. Like, nobody does it like you, and that's what you got to remember. Everybody's just a touch different and does something a little bit different. I locked that chatterbait in my hand, and that's not something I consider my strong suit. Is I consider the Chesapeake like a grass reservoir, flats fishing, tidal fishing. I consider that my 2 weakest points was tide and grass fishing. I love swimming a jig, but that's a little different than reeling the swim jig at the Chesapeake or rewinding a chatterbait. So I picked a bait and stuck with it in my hand and really covered those zones. I think the most important thing for me was, like I said, finding those zones where you can catch those 4-pounders. And I think it was a combination of the tide getting right and there being eelgrass or maybe hydrilla. I don't think there was a ton of hydrilla way out there, but it was definitely some healthy patches of eelgrass. And that chatterbait was a big deal. I think a lot of people were wanting a 3/8 ounce, and I don't think they were getting the fish right and effectively and really tick the tops of those grass. I had a 1/2 ounce, and then I had a buddy give me a 3/4 at the day 3. Which I kind of wish I would have had it the first 2 days, but I think the 1/2 ounce sufficed, and I was able to make it work.
Man, that's all. You lost so many fish. Why do you? I'm assuming you lost them on a chatterbait. Have you diagnosed like what had happened or what you could have done differently to keep those fish pinned?
At the end of day 2, I caught a snakehead and I caught a big catfish, and I think it possibly could have rolled the tip on it. I sat down and sharpened it with a pair of Bubba scissors, and when they roll the tips on those suckers, it takes away from some of the hook point. It probably knocked it down a good 1/4 of an inch, and I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but that's the only thing I could think of. Same rod, same reel, same line. And yeah, I just think that it wasn't a laser hook point anymore, and it probably could have caused some problems, and it sucks, but that's just part of it sometimes. And I didn't have another 1/2 ounce chatterbait in that color, so that really kind of made it tough. Like you're so confident in this color, and it being like a dark green pumpkin, which is like, it's a generic color, but it had a few streaks of blue in it and some stuff like that. It was just, I think, a touch different. I saw a lot of people throwing white. Rich, I saw you throwing white.
Yeah,
I didn't. I was trying to make sense of throwing white, but everything I looked to was like, why in the world would you not criticizing you for throwing white, but everything I could think of in my mind was like, why would you throw white? I mean, I haven't seen anything white bait fish wise besides the needlefish. They eat bluegills up there. They eat perch. And and I just couldn't think of a reason in my mind why I would pick up. I had a white one tied on all week, and I think I made 3 casts with it. So it was just having confidence. Having confidence around boats is a big thing too. So that's definitely what I would say is just keep your head on a swivel, man. Look for any condition that's changing, like the tide. We had 10 given sets of conditions during the day. We had tide and clouds. We had tide and sun. We had falling tide and sun. We had a rising tide and sun. Had a high tide and wind. Had a low tide and wind. So if you're not catching them, all you got to do is wait 2 hours, and it'll be a completely different set of conditions, and you can go back down that stretch that you think you should have caught one on but didn't. You know, so I would say that's a big part of breaking that bay down for me, and flats for me. So,
man, job. I hear you talking about something that is curious to me because I wrestle with it, like getting too much communication from other competitors.
Right.
Is that an asset or is it a liability? Is the information trustworthy or valuable, or is it leading you astray? I've been in both situations where I've worked closely with people and talked to others, and it gets me spun out. I can get confused or turned around, so there's a lot of times where I don't like, I don't want that outside influence.
Right.
But there's times when it's been really, really helpful. It seems like you're working with a pretty good group. You guys seem to communicate well together. How important is that to you?
We're really gonna see this upcoming EQ schedule. Like I said, I'm fishing with a different group this go around, Chase Clark, but traveling with the guys that I travel with, Tyler Malone and who else do we travel with? Tyler Malone, Cade Law is at the beginning, and dadgum, what's his name? I can't remember. He's from North Carolina. Brain fart, I guess. But having those guys that you can bounce some ideas off of and kind of break that, to me, it just kind of helps shortcut kind of and diagnose, like you said diagnose. I think that's a great word. Kind of diagnose what you're seeing out there, because we only have so long to break these areas down and these places down. I mean, the Susquehanna Flat is 3.5 miles wide. I mean, good gracious. You look at it and there might be a cluster of boats over by close to your waypoints. And you're like, is that guy on anything? And then you look and you kind of take a L and then you cut and look and you're like, oh no, he's like 1,000 feet off or 2,000.
Yeah. All right.
It's incredible. So like you said, having those guys that you can bounce some stuff off and listen to a little bit, I think helps. Evan White's the guy's name. So I traveled with Evan White, Tyler Malone, and Cade Law at the beginning of the season. But I think having some guys to bounce some ideas off of is a good thing. You can't forget that it's really tough to catch somebody else's fish. That's something I've always focused on, is catching somebody else's fish is not easy. Even if you have the exact spot or the exact bait, there's so many different factors that come into play on fishing. It can be really tough, but you can't always take information that you get straight to heart and apply it. So I think getting it and putting your little twist on it is the biggest part of it. Like, I was talking about the flipping bait at Tombigbee. That was a big deal. Like, I think that really helped me dial in the flipping bite and really look at, something that seems so insignificant, but really made a big difference. I mean, if you flipped anything with a lot of appendages, I don't know if it was the fact that the goggle eye got down there too at first because it drew more attention. I mean, think about a bluegill. You dye anything, you have a lot of appendages, a bluegill's going to love it for whatever reason. They're just attracted to it. So having the ability to break down that body of water faster is a big, important part, I think. And I think some of the Elite Series guys do it. I grew up with Logan Parks, and he's an Elite Series guy now. He travels with John Garrett, somebody I also fished in college against. Cody Huff, somebody I also fished in college against. And Rob G. I know that's literally the 2017, 2018 class of college bass guys. I mean, we fished against all of those guys, and I think they work together like that. And it's something that I've kind of been advised by Logan on, is to find somebody that you can really rely on. Thank goodness, we found a good group of guys this year, because you can't trust everybody. And that's the sad thing about bass fishing is some people are out there, which I say sad thing, people are out there for themselves and you can't blame them. But if you can find that group of guys that you can rely on, that'll tell you the truth, it can work to your net positive.
Yeah, that I agree, because fishermen as a group, well, we lie.
Or we don't tell the whole truth.
or we don't tell the whole truth. And it's hard to find that group that you can be open with and help each other. But man, is it beautiful when you find that group that you can do that with. So it seems like, you've done that, and it's worked out extremely well for you. Let's go to the last tournament of the season. Just got back from the St. Lawrence catching giant smallmouth. You had another stellar performance where you I got to ask you this, like you were I think you were launching it, was it Waddington or Messina? Where were you guys out of?
Waddington.
So you had to choose, all right, I'm in contention to make it to the next round. Do I lay up and fish close to Waddington, or do I go for the kill and make the long run? What did you do?
Not a chance. I'm not going to stay by Waddington. I practiced all 3 days down by the lake, on the U.S. side, both and the Canada side. And that's what I've kind of come to learn and get advised by Logan. I asked him, because he's been through the gauntlet. He's fished the Opens, I think, for 3 years and finally made the Elite Series. And he looked at me. I won't ever forget it. He looked at me one night when I was hanging out with him at his boat shop when I told him I was fishing the Opens. And he looked at me and said, do not ever let your foot off the gas. He said, because there's 15 guys, 20 guys, 30 guys behind you that are not going to. He said, catch all you can catch, burn it to the ground. If you make day 3, go find new bass. That's just something that's kind of stuck with me. Catch all you can. Do not take your foot off the gas. And I'm going to send it to the lake every chance I get, or send it to the boundary and go catch those bigger smallmouth. I mean, obviously, yeah, you can catch 20 pounds close to Waddington. That's a no-brainer. You can do that. But it just seems like, obviously, those bigger bass. I know Corey Johnson was over there. I saw Corey Johnson probably 2 or 3 times during practice, and those bigger fish are just close to the mouth of the lake. And like I said, I'm going to send it every time. I think I had a 180-ish mile round trip every day on my Phoenix and Mercury combo. So it was a long, rough ride both days.
I know it was. And with that long ride comes very short fishing time. Right. And, you were able to make it work. You were able to, you were knocking at the door and winning this one too.
It certainly felt like, when you get done with the hour 10, hour 20-minute boat ride, you get to your first spot. And the day one, I caught 3 or 4 4-pounders pretty quick. But day 2 was really where the magic happened. It was a really rough boat ride down there. And the first 3 I put my hands on were 5-pounders. So I had a 504, a 510. I want to say a 504, 5.04. 504, 510, and a 501. So that was the first 3 bass I put my hands on. I had over 15 pounds. Caught number 4. It was like a 4.5 or 4.25. And then I caught a 2-pounder. And I didn't weigh any of them until I got 5. And I had a squirt, man. I had one that was barely 2 pounds. And finally put my hands on all of them and weighed them. And I had over 20 I had 21 or 22 with a literal 2-pounder. So I went to a place that I'd graphed and found in practice and didn't get to fish. And it seems like every tournament but the Upper Chesapeake, I had some problems. I had my trolling motors die day 2 of practice, like died at 9:30. I think I got a problem with my charger. But trolling motor batteries died at 9:30 on the St. Lawrence River. I was like, that's great. Like, let's go. But ended up putting a lot of time behind the graph once again, like Clark's Hill, and really scanned for a lot of isolated boulders and stuff like that on high spots in that 30 to 40 foot range. Obviously, St. Lawrence is incredibly clear. You see 25 foot down in practice. I was going over a shoal and and drifting, and I looked down over a rock, and I think I was in 27 foot, and I saw a black speck on the rock.
Wow.
My rod kind of got a little spongy, and I was like, that's about where my drop shot's at. And it ended up being over 5-pounder, which was absolutely insane. But yeah, I put a lot of time behind the graph and found some isolated rocks and stuff like that. And I didn't go I fished them for probably the last 15 or 20 minutes of the day one, and I caught almost 4 off of it during day 2 or day 1. And I ended up going back to it day 2, actually spent a little bit more time on it. And that's where I caught 4 of the 5 that I weighed in. And I obviously weighed a 24-pound, 3-ounce bag on day 2. And so I kind of wish I would have gave it some more time day 1 to see what would happen. I know there were some bigger ones down there. But it's just so hard to know, because you get down there, like you said, you're giving up a lot of fishing time. You're making an 1.5-hour run each way. You're getting gas. So the time management's huge on that place. I mean, I had a little bit later weigh in, but still, I mean, you got to account for, is it going to be 3-footers when I come back through everything after Clayton, in between Clayton and Waddington? Is it going to be big water? Am I going to have to go 25 to 35 miles an hour to really ensure that I don't make my troll motor deploy in the middle of the river from hitting waves too hard? So it was an interesting animal. I really enjoyed it, but like you said, you really got to know that you can catch them when you get there. So you better pick the creme de la creme and make sure you can catch them. You got to fish clean. You cannot lose them. Thank goodness that's not a problem I had at the St. Lawrence River. Pretty much everyone on my hook to come in the boat, and it worked out.
Man, it sure did. And with all those problems too, I mean, that's something that you don't hear about a lot, because everybody has problems, but you got, as a tournament competitor, man, you got to be mentally tough. And I can see that you are, because to overcome that kind of stuff, man, it can spin you out and take you right out of the game.
Yep.
You kept your head in it, man. Kudos for that. It's not easy to do. Breaking rods, throwing fits, giving up, making excuses.
I used to be bad at that, believe it or not. And everybody's like, you've matured as an angler. And I was like, I guess I have. Yeah, college was, there were some meltdowns in college for sure. But, that's all a part of maturing as both an angler and as a person. So,
Yep. I love your philosophy, though. Never take your foot off the throttle.
No, never.
Man, that's a philosophy to live by as a tournament angler. And I know, we continue to make that mistake, and you got to remind yourself to these guys are good. Everybody's good. You got to keep that throttle down. So that being said, what happens next? You got to keep that throttle down. Explain it to me. How does it work? How do you qualify for the elites from here? What happens next?
So the way I understand it, we have obviously the 50 from my division, and we have the 50 from Division 2. We join together as 100, and we fish as 100 for the elite qualifiers, which is completely separate from the opens, obviously. So the elite qualifiers is going to be 100 total, and they're going to take 10 guys. And there's some catches in that. There's elite anglers and past elite anglers and BPT anglers that have all made that, or going to make that top 50, from each division. So we're going to be fishing against, I know some of the names, Daryl Gleason, Brett Height, who else is in it? Chad Pipkins, Gray Buck, Michael Neal. I know there's a lot of big names that are fishing in that. You just can't let it get to your head, like these are just, yes, they have been pro. Yes, they're very good at catching bass. But at the end of the day, they're just another guy that likes to bass fish like you. They just love catching bass, and this is what they love to do. So you just got to look at it like that. You got to go out there, bump shoulders with them, and I guess try to become one of them, but find your own way.
Find your own way. The way that I control the things you can control and forget about the rest. That's the best mindset I think a competitor can have. And B Height, super champion, a lot of these guys, Michael Neal, But you're on a great path, and you're fishing extremely well. You have 3 tournaments left. Are they on their bodies of water that you have visited? Have you done that yet, or are they brand new to you?
So yeah, so we got Champlain being the first one in September. I think it's September 18th through 20th.
Nice.
Then we have Lake Wheeler. That's North Alabama. I was actually born and raised my first couple of years in Athens, Alabama. So that's kind of close. That's Decatur area. So it's about 30, 45 minutes away. Wheeler, I've been to Wheeler. I've won a tournament in Wheeler in November. But we have Wheeler in October, so it's going to be a little bit earlier. I think I kind of know where to start. I'm going to be putting a lot of time in on these places. I'm up in New York, Plattsburgh, New York right now, taking a look at Champlain. I'll be here for another 2 days. I'll be here for a couple of days, and I came straight from St. Lawrence from here. But yeah, Wheeler's the only one I've been to. I've never been to Champlain. And I've been to Wheeler a handful of times, which is kind of crazy being that it's only 3.5, 4 hours from the house. And I've never been to Okeechobee. So Okeechobee is the final and last one, and it is in November. So we have a September, October, November. It's going to be a really busy fall, lots of bass to be caught, and lots of hours to be put on that motor.
Man, those are 3 amazing bodies.
Wild cards.
Yeah. 3 amazing bodies of water with great fish populations. Okeechobee in kind of the winter time. That'll be fun to watch you guys get after that. Yeah, what a neat tournament trail. Now, obviously, because you're a points leader, do you get like a 20 points to qualify?
I wish. I think I went up to Hank kind of joking with it at St. Lawrence, and I think I would have been leading points after Chesapeake. And I went up to Hank and kind of bumped his shoulder and said, "So what do I get if I win AOY?" And he looked at me and went, "You get a pat on the back and a berth to the opens or the EQs." And I was like, "Oh, that's it?" Like I was hoping to have, I don't know, like a little trophy or plaque. Yeah, it would be nice, but it looks like we're just gonna have to go do it again in the EQs and catch them up again.
Yeah, come on, Hank. We need
something, man. Something.
Yeah, we need something. It's really tough having such a great season to not be able to carry those points and that momentum into this next round. I imagine it's next to impossible for them to try to do that.
Right.
But yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, what you do have is tremendous momentum, and momentum sport is priceless. And you've got a great head on your shoulders. You're fishing really well. Sounds like you've got a new travel partner that you feel comfortable with, and you've only got to beat 1 out of 10 guys, right?
1 out of 10.
Yep. Or not. No, you got to beat 9 out of 10. I'm sorry. You got to.
Yeah, I'm 1 out of 10. You got to beat 9 out of 10. Yeah.
Yep. You got to beat 9 out of 10 guys to make it. So
I think this is by far the most difficult and challenging open setup that there ever has been to make the professional, like obviously Bassmaster Elite Series. This is the gauntlet, man. I mean, you get through these first 5 or first 4, and then it's wiped. I mean, it's just like, that's good work. We'll see you at the EQs, and you go through these next one, and it's 10 out of the 100. You work all season. You work more than 50% of the season being a 7 tournament layout. You work for 4 tournaments hard, and at the end of the day, it's wiped. But it's tough to see that happen, just because you put in all this work, and first place is the same place as 50th. It's the same thing. You both get a EQ berth, So it's just tough seeing half of that season wiped and all that hard work. But it just, I guess, on the contrary, should motivate you to go get it again and let's go.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've proven that you can do it, and no matter what happens this season, I know you'll be doing it. At some point in the near future, and I hope it goes like your whole season has gone so far. I think it's likely going to do that. Got to ask you this one question, courtesy of Justin Harant. the man pushing the buttons on this podcast. Our number one boat food is the honey uncrusted. What's yours?
Gosh, man, I couldn't tell you honestly. I'm kind of unique, like all these guys get these fun boat snacks like the PB&Js and stuff like that. I'm allergic to a ton of stuff. I'm allergic to milk, eggs, and peanuts, so I can't have like all the fun, unhealthy pastries, powdered donuts. Like I can't have any of that, man. So I'm simple, dude. Like most of the time it'll be a Pop-Tart, brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tart, a Slim Jim, or some kind of beef stick or a bag of chips. It's pretty boring.
Hey, that sounds like good boat food to me, man. I'd love to get into a Pop-Tart about 11 in the morning.
Yeah, a Pop-Tart that's been on ice is pretty dang good.
I highly recommend the Uncrustables, but it's got peanut butter, man. That's not gonna work for you.
Do it. Yeah, it's tough, man. I've always been allergic to that stuff since forever. I've always had severe allergies, so it sucks.
Yeah, Rich, I never asked you. What's your go-to boat food?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Is it?
Yeah, just make one in the morning. I usually eat it about 10:30.
Okay.
Going from, either sit down and eat it real quick or going from spot to spot, just smack it and be good to go. But I don't eat much on the boat. It's a lot of water and a little bit to eat.
I tried to be cool one time and make like a cashew butter and jelly sandwich, and I actually was out on a trip for a buddy's bachelor party with Austin Neary with Dream Catchers Fishing up in North Georgia. And he looked at me and said, "I thought you were allergic to peanut butter." And I was like, "It's cashew butter." He looked at me and had said something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was making fun of me so bad for having cashew butter, almond butter, whatever it was. But it was that'll be my last attempt to have a peanut butter like sandwich.
Well, I wouldn't change what you're doing.
Yeah.
If there's any superstitiousness going on in what your boat snacks are, stick with them because they're working. They're giving you the energy you need.
Any superstitions, by the way?
Not really, man. I'm pretty straightforward. I mean, if you're gonna catch them, you're gonna catch them. There's a lot of guys out there that can catch them, and I've seen guys catch them with. I mean, I've been to Lake Eufaula up the river towards Uchi and drop the trolling motor and not have batteries and still catch 20 pounds. Drifting with the current. I'm not super superstitious. I know guys that are. I'm not a fan of a banana in the boat, but I'm not one of those guys like no bananas at all times. Like if you eat that banana before we start making casts, we're good. But it don't really bother me that much. We've caught them with bananas. We've caught them without bananas. So not a huge deal.
Man, I highly recommend going back and looking at the hats and the underwear that you wore to get through the AOY race. And you better be wearing that stuff on day one.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it, man. Well, it was great visiting with you, man, and congrats on an amazing season. And it's going to be fun watching these EQs go down, and we'll be rooting for you as you come down the home stretch here.
That'd be awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate every opportunity I get to reach a new audience and obviously come on Bass U and really kind of lay it all out there.
Man, you really did. And I appreciate that. And our fans did appreciate, all the details on the tournaments and how you managed to do it. So congrats again. And we'll see you out on the EQs and good luck the rest of the season. Thanks again, buddy. Awesome. I appreciate you guys. You bet. Lucas Lindsay, what a great year, Rich. Absolutely amazing. No matter what he did, he wound up in the top of the tournaments.
Yeah, he said something really impactful there about the fishing and the crowds. Being from a state like Alabama, where fishing in 200 boat tournaments is a regular occurrence, that has a big impact, I think, on your ability to not freak out in a crowd, right? Because that's kind of, I mean, it's what gets me. I'm not going to lie. There's a huge difference between knowing where the fish are and being able to operate inside that area with 5 or 6 other boats that all kind of know what's going on, but you all have plenty of space, and doing that in the same area with 50 or 60. There's a huge difference there.
Yep.
And there's lessons to be learned from all this. So
it was tough. It was tough. And he was right. Like you're idling around and you're like, oh man, they're right on my juice. And as you look closely, sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not. But from a distance, it always looks like they are. It always looks like they're sitting right on the juice.
Right.
But yeah, fascinating stuff. Guys, we got some show and tell coming up. We're going to do some more talk about the National High School Championship, and we'll be right back right after this.
We're off the clock to clock more fish, to fill our live wells and empty our coolers, because there's more to explore. The latest Humminbird fish finders work fast, see clearly, and know all the best spots. They fish even smarter paired with the Minn Kota, and break down the water like never before. If you like your plans loose and lines tight, then it's time to explore. Only with Humminbird. Get right to the fight. New Mega Live 2 forward-facing sonar puts you on more fish with an ultra-clear, rock-solid picture of underwater action. Next-gen clarity, next-level fun. Only with Humminbird.
Do you love bass fishing?
Then you have to check out Bass University.
Access over 1,000 bass fishing seminars and episodes.
Get discounts on the tackle from your favorite tackle brand.
Learn the latest techniques from the top pros.
And never stop learning.
And never stop learning.
And never, ever stop learning. Welcome to the Bass University.
Welcome to Bass University.
Welcome to Bass University.
Welcome to the Bass University.
Welcome to Bass University.
The original Element rods were really Cashin's first launch, kind of in a price point level. With that, we got a lot of feedback.
And that's what brought about the Element Z2 and its launch. The most affordable American-made rod on the market.
Mother Nature may be tough. I'm tougher. I'll take you where chaos is the cost of entry and where the fish are worth the fight. Because the bigger the question marks, the better the quest.
Welcome back to Bass University Live.
Welcome back, guys. How was my feed on the last show, Rich? Was I choppy?
You doing good. Looks good. You're
No, I was getting a little feedback on the last session. I thought I might have been choppy in and out. I didn't know.
Oh, not sure. But yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll look at the final playback and see. But that was a great interview, great insight. What do you think about the Chesapeake, man? What about his take on finding those holes? That seemed like that was the recipe for success in that event.
It was.
You know?
Yeah, it was. It was that was definitely the pattern inside the pattern, it seemed. Yeah. It was key.
Yep.
Holes in the grass, it's a pattern as old as time, right? Like you bass set up in advantageous positions for them to eat, and holes in the grass with current rolling over them are very advantageous positions for them to set up and be predators and feed.
Yep.
And yeah,
good. It was good stuff. Well, I want to give a shout out to Garrett Smith and Andrew Blanton, who we interviewed, the college national champs, who turned us on to the True South buzz bait with a white horny toad, which they used to win the last 2 national championships. And Jake and Max did really well. They threatened to win the tournament. They were contending to win after day one, and we caught a lot of our fish shallow, Riz. All of our big fish, all of our 3-pounders and up, it came shallow on the bluegills, and it was as if those guys gave us the recipe for success, and they did. They gave us one way to win that tournament, because the other way was to scope, and the kids did really well. That finished high in the tournament, scoping, pinging a minnow, getting those bigger fish to go with that technique.
Right.
All of our fish on our team, all our big fish came shallow on the bank, and the buzzbait was key. We split our time between deep and shallow. Unfortunately, our deep fish were spots, and they were coming up small. A robo worm was a phenomenal tool for my kids, and they drop shot at a robo worm. In particular, Max was just a phenom with it, being able to generate so many bites, and that was fantastic. But the other one was this guy. Do you know who makes this bait, Riz?
I don't.
This is a sly guy. Bluegill swim bait. This is so realistic. I know it looks good on the camera, but my gosh, in the water, it's amazing. Jake caught a 5-pounder, which is a huge fish to catch in this tournament, down there at Clark's Hill. And a 5-pounder on that bait was just an epic fish catch under a floating pontoon, over a cable, and into the net. You know how hard it is to do that and keep those fish pinned. And he was able to do that, and it was great. Amazing time. Really enjoyed that process. Shout out to Glenn Kale and Bassmasters for putting on an amazing national event, and hope the boys can get back there again. It's their second time as a team. Last year they kind of finished middle of the pack. This year they did much better, and getting dialed into that southern fisheries in the summer.
Yep.
Hot. But let me tell you something. Kyle Welcher was talking about it on some social posting, and the bluegills love to be up on the bank on those reservoirs in the summertime. And I promise you, every inch of Clark Hill had schools of bluegills. They were spawning, they were feeding. There was this moss that was available. Like the lake was a little low, so the shoreline grass was out of the water. But there was this moss that grew down to about 2 feet, and the bluegills were living in it, man. They were feeding in it, they were living in it, and they were everywhere, all up and down that coastline of Clark Hill. Interesting stuff, but great event. Wish we'd had that win. Man, those kids wanted that national championship so bad. I wanted it for them, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again next year.
Yeah.
But still thinking about the Chesapeake, and we gotta, we had some accomplishments there, but more of those guys looking at an area with fresh eyes. Man, how valuable is that? We think, oh man, these guys are local experts. But a lot of times looking at a body of water for the first time gives you a big advantage. And we saw that. Only one of our local sticks, shout out to Duke Nave, he made the top 10 cut, but all the rest of us, Rich, did not make it.
Yep. It is what it is. Shout out to Bass. Shout out to Cecil County, Anchor Marine, Butch.
Yep.
Let's keep that. Let's keep it coming back. Let us keep stepping in the batter's box.
I love that we were there while the fishing was good, and guys really had a positive experience. So many times we've been there and it's been, very, very challenging conditions. Of course, I like that. It's good for my fishing, but You know,
Yeah.
I really like that we were there at a really good time.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it now, after having fished the last one when it was during a tough time of year and this one when it was, really good time of year, I think honestly, I fall on the same side of the coin. I'd probably rather fish it when it's tough and, you can really run through a lot of different areas and expand on the knowledge that you have as far as, the little small ways you can go get a bite.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, I talked to, well, I didn't talk to everybody that reached out leading up to this tournament, but I talked to a handful of guys, as far as just people just reaching out and saying like, how do you expect it to be fishing and all that? And every single person I said, listen, it's going to be during the most swing time of year there is on the upper Chesapeake Bay. If the weather lines up a certain way and we have good fresh water coming in, we're in about a 2-week window where it could still be really good and it's going to be smash and you're going to see these big weights. And guess what? We did. The water temp stayed cool. We had fresh water getting dropped on the bay every once in a while. But the beauty of it is that in the summertime, they hold that water in the dams up above the bay to make electric because it's hot. People are running AC. But we're still getting all that fresh water on the bay. And then the other side of it is if things go the other way and you're in that 2-week swing period, you have what's going on the bay right now, which is it can go from a light switch to being really good to extremely hard to get a bite, which has since happened on the bay. And
crazy.
Yeah, it changes quick. But yeah, it was nice to see our body of water show out and not have such a negative connotation around it because it really did. After the last time, everybody said, oh, it's so tough, it's terrible. And when Aaron won here, the flats wasn't firing, so everybody thought it was still tough and terrible. No, it's a healthy fishery. Keep coming back. We got a lot of bass.
Yep. And we'll see what next year brings. We'll participate in, but it was a nice Bass U event. It was great to have you there. A lot of the Bass U guys, a lot of the Bass U instructors were there, and most did pretty well in the events. Brian Schmidt, I think, led the pack, narrowly missing the cutout there on the final day. So. Yeah, great event. Justin, are you with us? We got a sub of the week that we can showcase. There is Justin. There is the Uncrustables man himself.
Yep. Shout out to Shane, sub of the week.
Look at that. Is that a Thousand Island smallmouth?
Pete, I don't know, man.
Man, you got to get on the research here, Junior. We need to know the details.
I don't know where that is. I'm gonna say I don't know.
I would say it's on a smallmouth water, but that's beautiful fish. Congratulations on that catch. We saw some Bass U hats down at the national championship, and it's great to see. And we also saw Neil Paul down there for South Carolina. He was down there doing some work for Yamaha and others like he always does. We look forward to having a Bass U event in South Carolina again this year. And that's what we got going on. What's happening at Bass U? If you want to sign up for Bass University, what's going on right now, Justin?
Right now we have the Frog Days of Summer promo going on right now. So you get a couple Berkeley Swamp Lords and a fresh BU hat when you sign up.
Gotta love that Swamp Lord, man. That is amazing frog. We filmed with Bobby Lane up on Lake Champlain with the Swamp Lord just recently. And is that released yet, Rich?
I don't think so.
Nope.
That seminar has not been released yet, but stay tuned for that. That'll be coming down the pipes. And stay tuned on the Bass U airwaves this week for our seminar this week, which is Dakota Ebert and his forward-facing sonar strategies. This is a good one. Dakota does a great job of breaking down how forward-facing sonar really are your eyes under the water from an overall standpoint as far as what the fish are doing and what the habitat has to offer, not necessarily just looking at one fish trying to catch it, but using that technology to understand what's going on in the whole ecosystem. And he goes over some pretty unique strategies that he uses specific to forward-facing sonar, little things like some of his settings and transducer positioning and how to utilize a turret in certain situations. So stay tuned. Be ready for that one. Hit the airwaves. It'll be coming out Thursday. Dakota eBear forward-facing sonar strategies.
Awesome stuff. I was thinking the Swamp Lord, back to that, the Bobby Lane fish catches when he was demonstrating his northern techniques, man, were pretty spectacular. Look forward to seeing all that good stuff. Guys, thank you for being part of Bass University. Thank you for stopping to talk to me, and I appreciate that. Wherever I go, somebody comes up and tells me how they're using it. Easton, who just took a top 10. What's Easton's last name?
Easton Lindis.
Just took a top 10 down on the Chesapeake and pulled me aside. And Easton said he signed up for Bass University prior to making his 20-hour drive down to the Chesapeake. And he listened to every single smallmouth seminar that he could, trying to school himself up for the Thousand Islands event coming up following the Chesapeake. So he went out of his way to tell me that. Congratulations on an amazing top 10 finish. And thanks for being part of the Bass U program. So many guys are using it to help their fishing get to the next level. Easton's one of them. And I know you guys are too. Thanks for watching. We're going to be back next week with another episode of Bass University Live. Get out there, get some summertime fishing in, guys. We'll see y'all next week.